John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness. Hyperbole.
There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Next shot.
Oh, come on. Welcome in. We're live today. It's a Tuesday. It is the 3rd of September. The year is 2024. It is episode 509 of the Anik and Florian podcast. Hopefully everybody had a good Labor Day. You're shaking your head, Ken Flo. You doing okay?
509.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Sorry.
Doesn't have the same ring to it as 508. Is that
Yes.
a super dry hat? What are you wearing today?
Oh, it's a Superica. This is just some Mexican
Yeah.
restaurant
All
that
right.
I like in town.
All right.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not trying to
Totally.
promote it. I just like the place. There's a
Bro, I mentioned to him Strawberry Hill, right? Strawberry Hill Road, Natick, Massachusetts, back in the day. He was
Yes.
telling me this is Strawberry Hill Road in Dover.
yeah.
How about
believe
that? Jason Anik at Boston Anik joining us on today's episode. Nice to see you, buddy. Shouting out Bully B, Belal Muhammad, loud and proud as usual. Oh, we buried the lead. Now joining us live on the Anik and Florian podcast, friend of the program, brother to the show, and now the undisputed UFC welterweight champion of the world, Belal. Remember the name, Muhammad Champ. It's nice to see you, brother. Training in a few minutes. We appreciate your time as always.
What's up, brother? Nice to see you guys. Always love seeing you guys.
So it's nice for us to see you and nice for us to see Chicago, Illinois lean into its undisputed UFC champion. So certainly we watched from afar as you were paraded around Manchester, and then in Abu Dhabi, it seemed like a real celebration. But what has it been like, and what has the reception been like in Chicago, Illinois, USA, because that's where you're from?
Man, honestly, Chicago was epic. You're right. We've had the parades for the Bulls, the White Sox, the Cubs, and now to finally get one for myself, it was amazing. Just to have family, friends there. And then we had like the funniest thing was I was on the WGN News, was like the big news network here.
Yeah, sure.
And then the lady goes, "Oh, you're the champion of street fighting?" And I was like, bro, like, people still not know what the UFC is? It was hilarious, but it was just cool to be on WGN News. I was like, bro, what the fuck?
No, I mean, WGN certainly rings true with sports fans throughout the United States, to be sure. And I mean, we've banged the drum when it comes to you defending this title in Chicago, and hopefully that happens in some point in time. So it looks like the nose is pretty healed up. How are things going sort of since you got back home from what was an extended trip there in the Middle East, and sort of getting your body back acclimated to the everyday grind?
Good. I got some scars, but right back in the gym. I got Nacho fighting next week at the Sphere, so I had to go in there and help him. He was definitely a huge part of my camp. And, for me now, it's like, all right, I got to get right back in the gym and help him. There is no going on vacation until after Nacho gets the win.
So in terms of Ignacio Bahamondes competing at Sphere in Las Vegas 11 days from now, I'm not sure there's any simulation training you can do as far as the aesthetic and the venue. But have you guys had anything resembling a discussion as to what some of the inevitably distracting surrounding visuals might be like for the competing athletes?
We're like sparring, and Coach Mike's rocking around the cage with the TVs to like try to like get into the glare or something like that.
Yeah.
So we get distracted. Nah, I mean, for us, obviously we're talking about it, but we're just trying to keep them like locked in no matter what. And like, you don't know what it's going to be. So we're trying to figure it out and trying to think about it. But I think me and Coach Mike been in this game for a while, so we're going to know how to keep them locked in. And Nacho's one of those guys that he'll fight no matter what. And he's going to bring the excitement. I think it'll hype him up even more. And I think he's going to steal the show.
The main event coming up between Burns and Brady. You know those guys very well. How do you see that one going down, man?
That one's a good one, man. It's interesting, right? Because Brady looked so good his last fight. And for Burns, he was looking good until he got finished. So I think it just comes now to how hungry is Burns. Is he still motivated in there? Because he's talking about, I want to fight Usman or Leon next. But he just doesn't seem like the same confident guy that, like, I can still chase the title. I'm still there because even if he wins, Jack Della's still ahead of him for the title shot, and you still know you got a long road to go. So for him now coming off of 2 losses, I think it just comes down to how motivated he is. I think Burns hits harder, but I do think that Brady has better wrestling and is probably stronger on top if he ends up taking him to the ground. And Burns is comfortable off his back. So I could see it being one of those where Brady keeps taking him down and Burns goes for submissions off his back and really doesn't get nowhere with it. And Brady ends up winning a decision that way. But I don't think Brady likes to get hit. So if Burns lands one of those big overhand rights, I see him dropping Brady.
Now, Belal, you're the champ now, and you do have a certain amount of leverage. A new champ, but you still do have some leverage. And I think you've spoken about this in the past, how you want to have those tough fights. But I'd imagine there's a lot of business decisions that goes into it, right? As far as balancing your need or want to hold on to the belt. What are the big money fights? What's the pressure from the UFC in regards to taking certain fights in certain locations, all that stuff? How do you manage that moving forward? Maybe not necessarily for the next fight, but how are you thinking about that now that you have this belt?
I mean, for me, when I think about it, I don't see anybody taking the belt away from me. So it doesn't matter really who it is, but obviously I want to have the fight where it's for my legacy. I think people will forget about Usman and they're saying, oh, Usman's on a 3-fight losing streak. But I think people need to give him his respect for taking that fight against Chimaev on 8 days' notice and then taking him to war, right? But people look at Shavkat and say he deserves it because he's undefeated. He's the boogeyman, 18 finishes. But, he's doing all this talking. But you just had a full year off of doing nothing. And you finished Wonder Boy. So it tells me you're fragile. And when I fight a fragile guy, I'm going to break him in there.
We talked, Belal and I, a little bit about a lot of different things over the phone recently. And we don't even talk about the next opponent because honestly, it doesn't matter. And a lot of guys say like, oh, I don't care who I fight. And Kenny, you talk about the business decision, right? But like Belal wants that Shavkat smoke. He doesn't want it with an open wound on his nose, but he'll take that smoke whenever it is. So Bully, like, do you have a feel? November, December, January, February, any feel? Anything you could tell us about timing?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just basically whenever the UFC wants it. Obviously, even right after the fight, I said December works best for me. But I think it comes down to whether or not Connor's fighting on that card because I doubt they'll put me on the same card as him.
That'd be fine if you were on the same card. That'd be fine.
What'd you say?
That'd be fine if you were on the same card. We can make that work. We'll co-main
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I can make that work. Yeah, that'll help my pay-per-view numbers. That's fine with it. But yeah, it doesn't really matter to me because, like, I think after December and on, I'm ready to go and I'm healthy and I'm in the gym now. So once I get past next weekend where Nacho's got his fight, then I'm cleared.
Well, I'm not sure if you heard it here first, but you heard it here from Belal Muhammad that he is receptive to competing in December. I always find it interesting when Shavkat or another athlete comes out and says, oh, Belal wants to take the rest of the year off. And I'm glad you injected into the conversation the UFC, the fight promoter, right? Because I don't know where we're going to be in January and February for UFC 311 and UFC 312, but they might need you to headline one of those cards in whatever market we go to, right? So it's not always in the champion's control, but I'm going to hit you a little bit harder than Jay, champ, if I could. So we asked our Anik and Florian podcast listeners today when they think you will make the first defense of your undisputed UFC title. 42% said UFC 310 December 7th in Vegas. 27% think UFC 311 in January. And then February and then November followed thereafter. So December, January, do you think those are the most likely spots for you? And is February longer than maybe you would like to wait?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's whatever the UFC puts it as, because I'm a guy that likes to stay active. I did not like Shavkat put, oh man, did you forget you waited 14 months for your last fight? I'm like, but I had a number one contender fight with Gilbert Burns. And then I got skipped over and they gave it to Kobe who didn't earn it. And then I still had to weigh in as a backup for that. So it's not like I was sitting out doing nothing. So yeah, I mean, I would like to fight soon. So December and January, those dates are wide open for me. But it's whatever obviously even with this, Pereira's taking
Right.
all the pay-per-view main events. So
Right.
once Pereira stops fighting, maybe they'll give me a shot.
So let me ask you about Madison Square Garden, November 16th, if I could. And just because I work for the company in a relatively high-profile position doesn't mean I know the inner workings nor the internal metrics. I don't know if Belal Muhammad versus Rakhmonov is a bigger fight monetarily than Muhammad versus Usman. I think maybe the Usman fight is bigger. Do you think there's a scenario whereby they want you to be that second title fight? Not, 2 months from now, 9 weeks from now, Madison Square Garden may be worried about John or Stipe and that fight staying together. And in a long-winded way, I'm asking you, like, is Usman a bigger name to potentially headline against at MSG than Shavkat?
Yeah, I mean, I think Usman is definitely a bigger name. I think, Shavkat has his Instagram trolls that, comment 55,000 times.
Yeah.
I don't see it translating to like ticket sales or pay-per-view buys. I don't see that. But Usman, we've seen him have two of the biggest pay-per-views with Masvidal. It's obviously funner for me when it's a guy that's going back and forth and he's talking trash, because I like those type of build-ups. I like that. And Usman's a guy that I've been chasing, right? He's a guy that he was a champion while I was on my come-up, and he was avoiding me. So to me, that would be a funner fight. But Shavkat's obviously the guy that everybody thinks everybody's running away from. So to me, that'll be one to shut up fans. But yeah, I think Usman is definitely the bigger name, the bigger guy that fans are going to pay to see.
Yeah. There's just so much that goes into it, And if Conor McGregor, in fact, is going to be fighting in December, right? Maybe you want the reliable new champ, Belal Muhammad, the ever durable, the guy who will fight Gilbert Burns on one leg if need be to help save UFC 288 or whatever it is. All right, I'll get you out of here on this, and unless these guys have anything else, feel free to chime in on the back end. What is the best thing that has happened to you since becoming the champion, or the most special human being other than hugging your mom, maybe, that has crossed your wake since you have become the best in the world?
The best thing that's happened to me is people are starting to realize that I'm the best trash talker in the UFC, right? I've been talking about these guys and I've been doing it, but they weren't responding. Usman had never responded to me, but now he has to respond, and now I could embarrass him when he chops back and forth. So now everybody's paying attention. So I could say one thing and it'll make like 10 articles. But bro, I've been talking. I've been the guy that's been here.
Yeah.
Also, just seeing all the people afterward that hit you up, that supported you, or secretly supported you, like, oh man, I'm so happy you won. You're a beast. Yeah. Those are like the coolest ones.
It's amazing.
I'll just say for me, John, real quick, CM Punk, knowing the nature of your relationship with him, Belal, when he took the microphone and shouted out your name, that was great.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
That was epic, right? That CM Punk, like, getting those things, right? And then, just in general, I've had FaceTimes with some big name guys that are just like guys you look up to, guys you look as the famous people, and now they're like watching you and they're celebrating you. That's always cool.
Yeah, we've been trying to get CM Punk on here to celebrate you. His schedule is pretty crazy when it comes to his professional life and his sleep schedule, but we are efforting CM Punk. Champ, great to see you. And it did dawn on the Anik Florian podcast family that whether you're the undisputed UFC welterweight champ or not, we can get you anytime we want. So it's kind of nice. And we can get the champ. Have a great day and a better evening, brother. And wherever and whomever, we look forward to being there and supporting every step of the way, my man.
Love you guys, man. See you next week.
Peace, brother.
Nice. Wow.
Wow. All right. So if you can't tell, Jay is in a studio that we are building in part for the NFL season. But Jay, I just want to let you know the audio bites sound like trash. We're not dialed in yet, and there is an echo. So the echo's fine. We can deal with that, but stop hitting the fucking buttons. Headlines brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. And I know Ken Flo's sick of me asking him about Alex Poatan-Pereira. But Kenny, he wants to go back to 85 and fight Dricus du Plessis, regardless of what happens in his title defense in Salt Lake City, October 5th against Khalil Roundtree Jr. And here's the quote from Poatan on Instagram. If you're not following, if you are listening to the Anik Florian podcast, maybe you're just not on social media. If you're not following Poatan, not exactly sure what you're doing with your life. Regardless of the result of my next fight, I want to go down one more time. Hey, Dricus, bring your will to fight me so you can prove that you are better than me. And Kenny, if Alex Pereira the man who has established so much promotional goodwill, goes to Dana White and Hunter Campbell and says, hey, I'm going back down to 85. I want Dricus. I think he probably gets that fight. What do you think about Poaton's ability to make that weight and, go back down and become a 2-time UFC middleweight champion?
Well, I think he does as well. I do think that seems more likely now. I was a little bit doubtful of it. So you could say right now, I was wrong about that. You were right, John. And I think that it's attractive for a lot of different reasons. First of all, I think he truly believes he matches up well against Dricus. And also, I think from, I guess, some matchups, at 185, matchups at 205, it's starting to get a little bit limited for both of those guys. So now you have an attractive fight at 185 pounds to a guy who was the former champ at that weight class to come back down. He still retains his belt at 205, perhaps, and just perhaps they push back that Ankalaev fight a little bit more in the process. So who knows? I don't know exactly what the reasoning is behind it. Either way, I love the fight. I think it's a fascinating fight. I think that, Dricus does get hit. He's got an iron chin still. He has many ways to win. Obviously, it'd be very interesting to see on the grappling side of things how Poaton's takedown defense holds up against someone like Dricus with that level of pressure and pacing that Dricus puts on his opponent. So from that standpoint, it's fascinating. I love the fight for a lot of different reasons. How Poaton performs at that weight remains to be seen. I do not think he's going to have the same chin that he showed at 205 that he will at 185, but who knows? Nor will he have the energy, I think. However, he will still have the power. If he hits Dricus, he could put him to sleep.
And certainly, in my mind, a false narrative that the man can't make the weight or somehow lost the appetite to make the weight. Yeah. All right, time now to bring on the star of the program. You know who it is, Garden City, New York's finest. In need of a haircut, but we'll take him anyway. Raymond Peter Longo. We're going 4 wide today. Jason Anik alongside. Ray, nice to see you, brother. How we feeling?
I'm afraid to talk. Can you hear me?
You sound great.
Amazing.
Really?
Amazing.
Oh, let's fucking go, guys. That's all I want to know. Because John, I can't see. You give me anxiety when you start flipping out about the recordings.
Well, 100%. I'm here to help relax you.
Thank you,
motherfucker.
Thank you, Jason.
Agitated. Nice to see you, Raymond.
Same here, guys. How was everybody's Labor Day before we get started?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Very good.
You sound so good. I mean, your audio level sounds so good today.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
No idea. But I like what Kenny was saying about Poaton.
Yeah.
I do. I like it. I love everything about it. I tell you, the problem with Dricus with that fight, it's not going to be too hard to find him. And he does have the power at that weight. But the chin thing is something, another thing in the grappling. But he's going to be the easiest guy for Pereira to find. I think that's a disaster.
Yeah. So you and I know you want to get started here. How was your Labor Day? Is there anything you want to share with the audience as to what your holiday held or no?
Very relaxing. It was great.
So you came on today and you obviously had some anxiety about the audio, and I gave you anxiety about the Wi-Fi, and I apologize for that. It seems as though, and I'm not trying to create a comedic moment here, but at least in 2 of the last 3 episodes, maybe I haven't set off a great tone with you. We don't talk as much on the phone as we used to, Raymond. So I don't know if I need to be concerned. I mean, I still think, you're still in my top 10, but, I don't want you to lose your groomsman slot here. We got to get back.
No, definitely. I'll start calling you more.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have a lot of research that I've done for your segment today.
Ooh,
so
that's not good.
All right. So I was going through some of the greatest MMA coaches of all time in my mind in advance of UFC 306, Riyadh season, Noche UFC, whatever we're calling it, because you are attempting to corner a 4th UFC champion and to have Merab join Aljamain Sterling, Chris Weidman, and Matt Serra. Now, there have been a lot of elite coaches in MMA, and humor me for 25 seconds if I could just rattle off some names, okay?
Yeah.
Greg Jackson, Mike Winklejohn, Trevor Whitman, Eugene Behrman, City Kickboxing, Javier Mendez, a.k.a. Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, Mike Brown, Pahumpa, everybody at American Top Team, Conan Silvera, Henry Hoof, Greg Jones, the fellas at Killcliff FC, Eric Nixick, Extreme Couture, Militich Fighting Systems back in the day, Team Quest, the late Robert Follis, Saif Saud, Fortis MMA, Fight Ready, MMA Lab, Greg Nelson in Minnesota, Francisco Grasso, Lobo MMA, Mike Valley, VFS, Nova Uniao, Andre Pedernera, Shoot to Box, Diego Lima, Kings MMA, Rafael Cordero. It just went on, right?
Yeah.
But only a handful of those guys, Jackson and Winklejohn, I think Trevor Whitman, have cornered multiple UFC champions. And I didn't have enough time to research how many of these guys have cornered 4, but you are hitting some pretty special territory, and I'm not sure if you've even given that an ounce of thought in advance of UFC 306.
No, I haven't given that thought. I'm excited for Merab though, and it would be nice to have a 4th champion. And things have gotten crazy since COVID, like we always talked about. But my thing always was homegrown talent. That's it. I mean, if you could match that, I'm not poaching guys. I'm not taking guys that had a 10-0 record and bringing them over. I just for me, that wouldn't be fun. But to watch guys from your own neighborhood that went to the same schooling system, that grew up on Long Island, I'm holding to that, and I'm proud of it. And I could care where I stand with anything, but that's what makes me tick. That's what I love. I love to see these guys successful. And if somebody could match that with the homegrown talent, I'm all in.
Kenny, Faraz Sahabi, TriStar MMA, one of the greats, was probably the elite MMA coach closest to your front door when you were in your prime. But what Ray's trying to do here, man, across all these different eras, and I didn't even think of the homegrown component, is pretty special.
Well, that's what I was thinking about. It's one thing, and it's not easy, right, to develop a champion, even if they are coming, and they are 10-0 or whatever, coming from some other place. However, it is yet another thing to get a guy who is just starting or has 0 fights or has 1 fight and is beginning their MMA journey, and to bring them from that all the way to a championship is something that is extremely rare, and Ray has done that more than a few times. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. That is a testament to his methodology, his training, the cohesiveness of the team, and that's legendary for sure.
Yeah, I mean, all 3 of those guys had their first pro fight with me. You know what I'm saying?
That's
like
crazy.
which is pretty crazy. So, and I don't want to leave out Iaquinta because he did fight for the title. So even though he didn't win it, he took that fight on short notice, gave Khabib a nice little run for his money, and I hold that in the same regard. So it was really 4 guys that got to fight for the title. 3 guys won it.
Yeah,
1 guy went up the best, probably pound per pound. He's going to go down as undefeated, and I take a lot of pride in that, and I always like to stick that in for Al, because that is like Khabib said, he is a gangster. And he fought through injuries. You guys, the other thing is you guys don't really know what these guys went through to get there. Like Weidman, I don't know if the guy was ever healthy, but I remember what they used to tell you, if a healthy Weidman's going to win, but he, 30 surgeries, it's hard to stay healthy. So, with all those guys, it was great. And think of the guys they beat.
Right.
I mean, Sarah beating GSP, Weidman beating Silva, Aljo goes on a great tear. Pete Yan at the time was really, really, really good. And, the Cejudos, the Dillashaw's, I mean, it's good. It's a great feeling. I'm glad I'm glad we accomplished what we accomplished, because we got to take this team in another direction now. But I think COVID really did a good job of splitting everything up. And once you lose that unity, it's tough. You got to go back to like a rebuilding stage,
right?
Because when you had Weidman, Sarah, Iaquinta, Merab, Aljo, it just keeps going. Like all in the same room. That was that the team really governed itself. I don't know how else to say it. I was just there as maybe a conduit to certain things, but I don't even want to take credit. But that room at the time, I'll say, is unmatched in my point of view. And it was like, again, it was all guys from the same neighborhood, with the exclusion of Merab,
Well, largely it's been a forgettable last 15 years or so for the New York sports franchises. So it's nice that Sarah Longo and Longo Weidman MMA have carried the torch and proved some championships. And by the way, these are the favorites on my phone. You can't see, but Ray Longo's right there between home and Mom Joma. So Ray's still in the favorites there. A few other things that I'd like to get to, and then Ken, Flo, and Jay can chime in if I could. So in terms of the sphere, right?
Right.
And I'm sure you don't have any great answer for this question, but we just talked to Belal Muhammad, the UFC welterweight champion, who will be in the corner of Ignacio Bahamondes
Oh,
for this
nice.
special UFC show September 14th. What are your expectations for how the visuals and the aesthetic might play some sort of role? I mean, it seems like you're smirking, so you've at least given it some thought, no?
Oh, no, I'm very excited because all I could do is go by what I hear, and I hear it's an experience. So how it's going to play into the fight, I would think a guy like Merab, it's going to really lift him up, and he's going to know it's a special moment. Not that he needs that because he's coming in guns blazing either way, but I'm really excited. You know what I mean? Like, and I tell you, and I thought UFC 300 was probably the best event I was ever at. You know, we talked about it on the show, just the ambiance and all the champions that were on stage, and they brought like everybody. There wasn't just like 5 people; it was the whole fucking card. So I'm really. I don't want to get too excited because I don't want to be let down. You know what I mean? But I'm hearing some good stuff from some people you're close to too, John.
Sounds like it's all off the record.
Yeah, off the record.
Okay.
But it's good, really good. I'm hearing good things.
Maybe if we reignite our phone relationship, you can share.
Yeah. I will do that. I'll do that.
I have not seen anything resembling a TV format. I will tell you, Ken Flo, my desire to wait until Saturday to go into the Sphere is not going to happen because we have rehearsals and things like that. But as you were, Ken Flo.
That's awesome. Listen, so people love to say a fight is just a fight, and it is. Largely it is. However, the week before, especially a show like this, being at the Sphere with all this pageantry, all this kind of tech that's going to be put into it, it's going to be different. And you having been a part of so many different championship fights, and with Merab, this being his first one, of course, is there something that you tell him in preparation for this, I guess on a mental or emotional level, that's going to be different than some other fights? Do you just let him do what he does, or is this one different? You go, hey, Merab, you got to be prepared for this, and that.
You know, most of these things, Kenny, he's really a grounded guy, so he's going to know exactly. But yeah, I think the conversation has to be, because you don't know which way they're going to pull you. I remember back in the day, like Sarah would just, like the 2 days before a fight, a day before, I'm not doing the interview. Like, like I got to focus, so
yeah.
You got to remember, they're building their brand at the time. They're dragging you here, they're dragging you there. He would come to a point and go, I'm not doing it. He would just say, no. And that's almost where I'm feeling with this. Like, this might be so different that they want to make it so perfect. And from what you're hearing, $1 million just to do a run through, they're going to be crazy. Those people, like, if you're, bottom line oriented and you want to make this thing perfect and you're in an environment where that might not be easy, I am a little worried about that, but hopefully we'll navigate through that. And the only thing I could say that is everybody's going to have to deal with it. So it'll be the same pressure. So, Merab's definitely a guy that if he can't control it, he's not going to buy into it. He's only going to concentrate on what he can control. And I think for that night, it'll be himself and just mentally staying ready, because I do expect some crazy stuff coming out of there just based on what I'm hearing. But like, again, it's new to everybody. So everybody will be in the same spot.
So Ray, Merab's obviously shown a chin in spots and definitely been cracked sort of early.
What are you laughing at? So what are you laughing at, Ray? I got to know. Like,
I'm
he starts
laughing.
talking and you just start laughing.
No, it's a laugh of I'm agreeing with him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy. It's not I'm not laughing at him. Yeah.
Right.
More
Right.
love. No, it's 100% love.
Maybe I'm on a little delay. It's just you started talking. And
no, I'm happy to hear Jason's voice. That's all.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So this motherfucker. Glad I remember my question. No, so you certainly talk to those that like O'Malley in the fight, and they'll tell you, oh, Merab's been cracked by other guys and recovered. He ain't going to recover when O'Malley cracks him early. So, I mean, do you discuss that? Your thoughts on that?
Hey, I'm going to tell you something. He's going to have to eat some punches to win this fight, period. That's it. I mean, O'Malley is a sharpshooter. If you go in there thinking you're not getting hit or you're just going to do this or do that, I think that's a huge mistake. You know, before the Marlon Moraes fight, I told him, hey, if I tell you how many times I worked on getting underneath the left hook with him, and that's exactly the punch he got hit with. But before leading up to the fight, I go, Merab, you're going to get hit. The guy said, you know, he hits hard. And I said, you're going to have to walk through fire at some point in this fight. And that's exactly what he did. So it's going to be kind of the same thing. He's going to have to eat some shots. And I think, you know, as long as you're ready for, you know, Kenny, it's like I'm not saying anything new, but it's the shot you don't see.
Yeah.
Like when you see a shot, even if it's hard, you can deal with it. You know what I mean? Or at least I feel like that, you know. But the shot that you run into or you get caught out of place, that's the shot that's going to put your lights out. So I think Merab knows what he's up against. I think O'Malley's really good. I don't think O'Malley's ever faced anybody with the pressure of Merab. And I don't think Merab's fought anybody with the length and the accuracy and the power of O'Malley. So, you know, who controls the range will win that fight.
Ray Longo Minute every week on the Anik Florian podcast. You can follow this man at Ray Longo MMA. The Ray Longo Minute is presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Have you had any interaction with Tim Welch over the years?
I'm going to say absolutely not. I might have said hello to him once, but yeah, he seems like a pretty wants to keep to himself type of guy, but I really don't know him. So, but I think I said hello to him maybe in the Saudi Arabia when Abu Dhabi when we were there.
So no love lost necessarily between him and Merab Dvalishvili. But one thing we've never asked you about, and I didn't intend to today, so I apologize for putting you on the spot, but when Aljamain Sterling was fighting Sean O'Malley, I guess Tim Welch was caught on a microphone screaming some sort of imperative to Aljo that maybe he followed and then he got knocked out. Did that ever cross your wake?
No, that never crossed my wake.
Okay.
I mean, if you think Aljo could hear what he was saying, is that the question? Because
Jay, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but much has been made, I think, of the fact that, yes, that maybe Tim Welch in a moment, and again, I don't know the whole story, but in a moment, maybe lacking sportsmanship, according to some, right, was trying to coach Aljo into the wrong.
Yeah, and maybe Cody could chase it, but almost like he said, Aljo, go or something, and then he shot. And
I see that. Oh, I know. I think I saw that. Yeah, I'm just saying, look, if it was at the Apex, I would say, you know, good chance of something, but at the Garden, you're not hearing, you know, most of the guys say they just focus in on one voice, and I'm saying that had nothing to do with anything.
Right.
But, you know, the Garden was loud, man. The Apex, you know, that's what you do as a coach. You fuck around like that. That's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. A couple more things before we get you on out of here. And again, we appreciate.
Why is Kenny laughing now? Kenny's laughing.
No, I think it's cool. Well, I think Ray's seeing it from like the perspective of like that's a part of the game, right?
Yeah,
exactly. It's just Ray's like, hey, it's part of the beast. And
if you think nobody else is doing that, you're crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So I mean,
I did not hear that story though. That's
hats off to him though.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Keith Florian. So
exactly.
Oh, Keith Florian's definitely doing
He'll
that.
do that.
Yeah, he's definitely doing that for sure.
I did a podcast recently where I did a 60-second rant on Keith Florian, and I'm going to cut it and send it to the Florian brothers. And
that's fun.
That's hilarious.
You might even have to CC Edgar Florian. All right. Ray, you recently said on the Anik Florian podcast, and I quote, Dricus Du Plessis might actually be my new favorite fighter. So
100%.
Your favorite dog is Lucky. Is that accurate? Lucky's still alive?
Lucky's still around, right in front of me.
So to save Lucky's life, potentially.
Oh, boy.
You get to send one middleweight into the octagon to beat your favorite fighter, Dricus Du Plessis. It cannot be Chris Weidman, okay? Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, Khamzat Chimaev, or Alex Pereira, who has said he's going back down. So I'm going to give you 5 middleweights, and to save Lucky's life, you got to pick one to go in and beat Du Plessis. So of these 5, who has the best chance to beat Still Knox? Strickland, Adesanya, Whittaker, Chimaev, or Alex Pereira?
Ooh. Man, that's tough. I mean, look, my first gut feeling is Poatan, but the wrestling component scares me a little bit. So I'm going to go with Strickland because that was a close fight. Maybe he even won that fight.
Yeah.
So, he seems like he wasn't getting taken down. He could keep it standing where he likes it. He's just got to throw a little more combos, and I think he wins that fight if he didn't win the first one. Okay? That was a close fight, right? If I'm not mistaken. Split decision? Anybody?
I don't remember if it was split. It might have been split.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cody just populated
Oh.
the chat with a final note on that Tim Welch stuff. The final response in the banter was from Aljo. He said, "You talked hella shit during my fight with Sean. The ref had to tell you to shut the fuck up multiple times. I wanted to slap you in between rounds, and I regret not taking the fine for that. You should know better as a former fighter and a current coach. You constantly talk shit about Merab. Let Sean talk shit. You don't need to be chiming in on the shit talk unless you want the problems as well. It's that simple, bro." So obviously, and it was a split decision, by the way, but yeah, obviously Aljo was put off by whatever was going on there, right? I just want to get that out there.
Well, he's talking about the beef with Welch and whatever beef Merab and Welch had.
No, that quote says, "During my fight with Sean, the ref had to tell you to shut the fuck up multiple times."
Well, the ref's not going to tell you to shut up during the round, no matter what you're screaming. That's never happened to me, and I've screamed a lot of shit. So
yeah,
I think he's talking about all the other bullshit leading up to it, and maybe before the thing started. I think, I don't know. I'd have to ask him, but I don't think the refs. There's no way. Look, the ref. I can't see that.
Right.
I can't see the ref telling you to. Who the hell is the ref telling to shut up? I mean, the commission, like if you start banging on the cage or standing up, they'll sit you down and tell you can't do that or stuff like that. But I don't.
We do have referees and judges that listen to this program.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why I actually brought up the coaches to maybe corner 4 UFC champions is hoping that somebody from our great listenership will actually be able to come up with that answer, because I couldn't this morning. But yeah, maybe Jason Herzog can chime in a little bit, because I don't know if you are within your right. I'm sure you are, but I'm not so sure, right, to yell/coach the other fighter. I don't know. I guess you can say all's fair in love and war. Is that what they say? I don't know.
Oh, I'm cool with it as a coach.
We can tell you're cool with it. This was not
doubt.
on my agenda today, by the way.
No, that's all good. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of shit talking that's going on between, I think one time when Matt was fighting Parisi and Henzo said something. I'm not even sure. I'm not really sure it is, but it might have been Henzo said something, and Parisian told me to go fuck myself. Right in front of the guy. I mean, we started bantering back, and we do that all the time.
Yeah.
Ray asked his fighter to punch a hole through his effing chest. He's fine with it. Okay.
Right.
Oh, so it's almost like, John, how about this? Like when the guy's in front of you and your guy's on top, and you tell him he's getting tired. Look, he's gonna quit. That's talking shit, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Nobody's ever stopping you for that. Impossible.
Right. Fair. All right, that'll be the final note on that. Well, I am excited to see you in a little bit. Hopefully, we can get you to the penthouse to say hello to Big Ron Pellegrino and Jay and everybody else. Ken Flo's not going to be there, unfortunately.
Come on, Ken.
What?
I know.
Ray, are you going to get a haircut before? I assume
100%. I hope so.
So, like when you look in the mirror this morning, have you looked in a mirror this morning or no?
Yes, I did.
You brush your teeth before the coffee or no?
I combed my hair before coffee. I can't. My hair's all over the place. What do you want me to tell you?
No. I'm curious though. Like I think some men look in the mirror and like they don't even think about their hair. Kenny thinks about his hair. Jason thinks about his hair. I shave my
and Ray,
hair.
John's thinking about his bracelets. He's got a few bracelets on his wrist. It's like a different focus, right? Clean up top. I got my bracelets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my hair. Am I being obsessed with it? Like what I look like? Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Bingo. Bingo.
Yeah, you're not. You don't lead the league in vanity, unlike some people on this program. Hey, Jay, you wearing your new chain? Why don't you show everybody? Jay, you wearing your new chain?
Let's see it, Jay.
My boss took good care of me, right? I think I pull it off better. Inside the t-shirt. But yeah,
leave it out for the rest of the show, okay?
Is that a gold chain? I can't see it from here. Gold?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks heavy.
That's nice.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, one with the 22 inches. We appreciate you, Johnny. We appreciate you, buddy.
That's pretty.
Taking good care of me. Appreciate you.
I
You know?
love
Yeah,
the brotherly love.
I
Love
love the brothers go back and
Love
forth.
it.
Hey,
Enjoy
it's
that
not my
shit.
style
So
wearing it out, bro. Like that might be your style. Oh, it's all love. Yeah. People message, right? Like, man, John hates Jason. Like, right. Like, okay.
Wait, hold
Yeah.
on. So you know what the problem is, Jason? People message that he hates everybody at this point.
Fair.
He's a loving guy. I don't
No,
get it.
right. He's been a dick the last couple of weeks, but
It
hopefully
means
he
he likes
turned that
you,
page.
what I think. It means he
Exactly.
likes you. Yeah.
Exactly. He can take it out on you a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I think Kenny has an acute understanding of me. I think I am perpetually misunderstood, certainly by some of those who choose to comment on YouTube in defense of Ray Longo. But I am also driving this show. And yes, in my life, I have been told I'm a little bit too serious at times. At other times, I am too much the other way. But I
we
still
need
have
you.
a job
We
to do
need-
today.
Yeah.
I have sponsors to read and things that I have
We
to
need
take care
serious.
of.
We need
Well, hey.
serious John Anik for this. We need you, John, for that. And just like you're saying with the coaching, the coaches talking, just like us bantering. It's normal. It's normal to
Exactly.
me. So I don't know what this. That's not. I'm not.
But no, but at one point in the next few weeks, I'm going to show up in an opposite manner in terms of the prep, for example. I'm not going to
Right.
prep the Ray Longo minute. I spent 25 minutes going through coaches today,
Yeah,
right? To try
unbelievable.
to have a conversation when maybe we don't have UFC fights to recap, right? And, the only other thing I have on my list is Aljamain Sterling and Movsar Evloev, right? But I could sit down here and we could just fucking shoot the breeze, but,
I think I
sometimes,
speak for the whole crew. We appreciate you, John.
well, hey,
Absolutely.
most basic human need is to be appreciated.
100%.
Do you have anything for us on Aljo and Movsar Evloev or Chris Weidman against Eric Anders? For me and Kenny, like Ken Flo versus Evloev at 145 pounds is as good as it gets. It's absolutely fascinating. But for a striking coach like yourself, I am curious, what you think of a matchup that forecasts maybe as a grappler's delight, maybe not.
Yeah, but we're talking Aljo and Mozart, right?
Yes.
I'm really looking. I think it's a great matchup for Aljo. Believe it or not, I really do.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying anything, but I gave him my thoughts on what I would think is the easiest path to victory is.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. But he was sparring at 6:30 this morning. He sent me to sparring. I go. He said he didn't want to wake me. Oh no! He said I said something else. He said he was waiting for me, but they had to start.
Waiting for you.
When is that going down, by the way?
October 5th, week after Paris with Frivola.
Nice.
So crazy schedule coming up, and I'm in Vegas for a week because I don't think I could say anything yet, but I might have another guy on the Contender Series, so I'm going to just stay in Vegas.
Hey,
So,
Well, I can't tell you why I'm staying in Vegas, but I am staying in Vegas until Tuesday or Wednesday. So maybe we could break some bread.
oh, awesome, man! That's great. Oh no, we're
You wanna-
definitely hanging for sure.
You want to get a tattoo?
No.
Okay. Cody's telling me, yeah, my book is going to be called Perpetually Misunderstood. And maybe we'll do a subtitle like Perpetually Misunderstood Custody Battles in My Life on the Road with the UFC.
Wow, love it.
Hey, Ray, we love you. Thanks for
Nah,
elevating all the ships in the
we
sea.
love you more, John.
And I'll call you later this week. We have a lot
Yeah,
to catch
100%. Let's do that for sure.
And thanks for all your contributions. We'll see you in about 10 days. And we'll talk to you next Monday.
Ray.
We're out of here. Take it easy, guys.
See you soon, buddy.
Ray Longo Minute every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. Well, Jay is excited for more reasons than one. We are efforting to move our studio out of my master bedroom into his house so we can do a 2-shot. Details to come on season 3 of our NFL podcast. But we're going to rifle right back out to the guest line right now. And you knew that a man of this caliber was going to be early or a few minutes close to the call time and looking good with the fresh shave. I got an intro for you, my friend. It feels weird writing out an intro for my friend, but I'm going to do it anyway. A man who actually, as Ken Flo knows, graced the 2nd or 3rd episode of this program and suggested it should be the Florian and Anik podcast back in 2015. Legendary combat sports journalist. And I interviewed him for the first time on the Mouthpiece Boxing Show back in 2003, 21 years ago. Owner, proprietor of KevinIole.com. Kevin Iole is with us. KI, great to see you this morning. How we feeling?
I was really hoping you weren't going to bring me on early because all that talk about hair with Ray Longo and And Kenny was kidding me.
Well, Ray looks a little bit unkempt. You look clean and mean. So how we doing? When was the last time you played golf? We fitting in any recreation? I know you're hitting the new website pretty hard.
Yeah, I actually haven't played for a little bit. I went out with Abel Sanchez, Triple G's former trainer, 6 weeks or so ago, and it was like only 117 out. So that was genius of us to go out at, I want to say, 9:30 in the morning when it was just starting to get hot. But I surprised myself with how I played. I'm never going to be the long drive winner, but I was keeping it in the fairway and putting some balls in the hole every now and then.
So fairly recently, you branched out on your own, KevinIole.com, and it's been great to sort of see you control the content. I love the logo. Your Rolodex obviously runs deep. So how has that been like, sort of initially setting off on that venture, and how has the response been over the last year or so?
I was always worried in my job when I was working for Yahoo. I saw what was happening with the media business. Unbelievably talented people were getting laid off. And I was always like, oh my God. And I know I wasn't covering the NFL or the NBA, the two big sports. So, I was always worried, John, that, hey, what's going to happen to me and how bad is it going to be if that ever happens to me? And I got laid off on December 1st. And in the moment, I got laid off with about 50 or 60 other people. We were on a Google Meet call. And I mean, it was like a drive-by layoff. I mean, literally we're on this thing, and the guy gets on there and he tells us basically, everybody who's on this call is being laid off as of today. And I was freaked out for like about 20 minutes. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, I'm actually way better off. My phone started ringing about an hour after I posted on Twitter that I was laid off. And I had job offers. I had, people calling, hey, whatever help I can be. And I finally realized, I said, hey, you know what? Now I can control the narrative. If my website sucks, it's because of me. It's not because of somebody else. And they didn't let me do something. And so I said, I want to put it on my shoulders, and I want to kind of build it in my image and what I think it should be. And I'm still tweaking it, but my traffic has really been going up. My YouTube channel has been growing.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to keep working on all that, but I'm really happy where I'm at right now.
Kevin, I was just on your website, and you had a great article on Francis Ngannou, who is going to be taking on Renan Ferreira in a big heavyweight fight. It's most likely a study in futility, because it's rare that we have someone coming off of such a horrible familial loss, right? And then having to take a fight, and then, of course, coming off of a knockout loss. But how do you think he's going to come back? And is there any other fighter that you can kind of relate his story to that has come back and triumphed amongst such hardship?
Caleb Plant is the only fighter off the top of my head that I can think of. This former super middleweight boxing champion lost his daughter and came back not long after and won a world title, Kenny. But it's really, really hard, and he's coming off a pretty vicious knockout in March to Anthony Joshua. He got dropped 3 times, and he was getting, it wasn't like, he was taking fast, easy punches where, it was just volume that stopped him. I mean, he was getting clubbed. And, it was like, hitting a seal over the head with a billy club. I mean, it was just, he was just there to be pummeled. That takes time to overcome that. Number one, first of all, it's his first knockout. Mentally, it takes time. Then just the physical, let your brain heal after all that is going on. And now on top of that, the unbelievable tragedy of losing your infant son. I mean, what kind of mental shape is he going to be in? If you look at the fight, I mean, Ferreira has gotten, I wrote last night, actually, a lot about the no contest that Ferreira's had, but he's had 3 no contests that were actually losses that got turned into wins, by, fortuitous circumstances. 2 of the guys cheated, and, you can't blame him for that, but still, he lost in those 2 fights, 16 of the 18 scored rounds. So, you would say Francis should be a very solid favorite and should win this fight. But when I look at it and I go, I know Ferreira knows this is his moment. This is everything to him. It's just another guy to Francis. And on top of that, Francis coming off A, the knockout loss, and B, this incomprehensible tragedy that, how does anybody handle that? You can't. And so he's just a wild card going into that fight.
And Kevin, with this huge card coming up at this Sphere, do you think this is going to be a one and done? Do you think the UFC would do something like this and maybe never go back again? Because it seems like it's going to be an insane card and event.
Yeah, I would not say one and done, but I don't think we're going to see it every year. I think it's going to be a special event, like every couple of years, if they get the right fights and they can line it up correctly, right? Who is going to be the future Conor McGregor, right? Whoever that person is, maybe down the road, they'll say, hey, let's put that person at the Sphere and let's have him or her, fight in the Sphere and have a big card there. But, Dana told us last week after the Contender Series, the memorable Contender Series press conference that we had, that they were $21 million into this right now. And so that you're not going to put on a lot of shows where the production cost and renting the arena alone is $21 million.
So the heavyweights, and I believe you were the journalist who was asking Dana White about the heavyweights. And if you have written about this, KI, I apologize. Kevin Iole joining us live on the Anik and Florian podcast. So my thesis statement largely has been, what is a promotion to do in this most unique circumstance? In the red corner, you have the consensus greatest fighter of all time. And in the blue corner, you have on paper the most accomplished UFC heavyweight of all time. So when John tears his pec, and then you have the emergence of Tom Aspinall. So Kev, hopefully November 16th, it shall be done, but I'm not sure the UFC could have done anything unless John wanted to graciously vacate, and he might have been prevented promotionally from doing so.
Well, I think, my take on this, John, would be this. If they were so committed to fighting John versus Stipe, then strip John of the title because Stipe, and I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm bashing Stipe, and I am not bashing Stipe, but he does not deserve at this moment in time to fight for a world title. He has not had a win in over 4 years. It's going to be 4 years and 3 months since he had a win. He hasn't had a fight in over 3 years. So God bless him for the great resume that he has. Stipe Miocic does not deserve a championship shot. So I understand why John Jones wanted to fight him, because Stipe has that reputation as the greatest heavyweight of all time, and John wants to steal that and elevate himself to not only the greatest light heavyweight of all time, the greatest fighter of all time, but the greatest heavyweight of all time. I get that, but that should be a non-title fight. Tom Aspinall is doing it in the ring. Tom Aspinall was beating the best fighters in the world and beating them in 50 seconds and a minute and 13 seconds. Aspinall deserves the shot. And the reason that the UFC grew so fast and so big and surpassed boxing is because of the way they value the titles. In boxing, we have all these, I was going to say bullshit. I don't know if I can say that on here, but we have all those BS titles in boxing that, super champion and this champion and that type of champion. And the value of the title is lost, right? And the UFC, that has largely not been the case. But all of a sudden, you're risking that in this particular case, giving John's inactivity, Stipe's inactivity, and the fact that at least John's coming off a win over a credible heavyweight. But what has Stipe done?
Yeah. No, I'm glad you laid it out that way. And even for John, whom I love, right? UFC 285, March of 2023, a long time ago. I just feel like Stipe signed the contract and the brushback from Team Miocic would have been so strong, but I think you laid it out beautifully. So when you were at Yahoo, were you forced to make predictions for UFC pay-per-views or no?
I did.
Kevin Iole doesn't do anything he doesn't want to do, but you did make predictions for pay-per-views, yes?
I did. Yeah, I made the predictions. They wanted betting content, especially toward the end of my tenure there. So, of course, we did that.
Because Kenny's been making picks on this podcast really since 2015. And even when we were doing MMA Live in 2008, he didn't like the fact that he had to be picking against his fellow lightweights and friends, but it's sort of an inconvenient truth of the business. So are you making picks on KevinIole.com now, or are you not doing that?
I make them as I kind of feel strongly about shows. So I do have a betting tab up there. and I make predictions in there. But like, when I was doing it at Yahoo, there were some shows where I didn't really have a strong feeling one way or the other, right? I go, yeah, I kind of lean toward this, but the number is so big, right, that I don't want to lay that huge number, but I had to write a column, so I would do that. So now, like, if I feel, hey, there's really a lot of value, and then I also play that a second thing. There's fights on the undercard. I say, hey, there's really good value here. I really like this. But how many people are going to read that if it's not John Jones in the headliner? Like, I did one on Belal, right, when Belal fought Leon, and my betting column said, when Bruce Buffer says Anu, go to the window and cash. I had picked Belal to win the fight, and I laid out my reasons why. I had a really strong feeling about Belal in that fight, and so I wrote it. I didn't so much have a strong feeling in Izzy and Drickus as an example, and so I didn't, I didn't do a betting piece on that one.
Real strong feeling about my boy, though. I get it. Me too.
So I just love your approach, and I have admired you for so many years, and I really am proud of your new venture. I know in terms of the internal metrics, you have a much better finger on the pulse of, how big a superstar, say, Sean O'Malley is versus Alex Pereira compared to me. I would submit to you that Alex Pereira right now, the global superstar that he is the biggest star in the UFC. Sean O'Malley was on a loaded Miami fight card at UFC 299. He has said himself he feels sort of upstaged by the venue here September 14th. So how do you quantify his relative star power right now compared to, say, Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya, and anybody else?
I think when you look at the UFC, you had superstar Conor McGregor, then you had at the next level down Ronda Rousey, GSP, and Chuck Liddell. I think they were kind of just that next step down from him. And those four were in a class by themselves. And O'Malley is, to me, kind of trying to burst through to get to that, GSP, Chuck Liddell level. He's not there yet, but I think if he comes out there and he blows away Merab at the Sphere, right, and knocks Merab out or wins in spectacular fashion, I think he gets to that point. I really do. I think Sean O'Malley has that it factor. Like, look at when he was with the Arizona Cardinals last week and the way the Cardinals, the players reacted to him, right? You saw that with Conor McGregor and the 49ers and other, but I think, you're the other athletes recognize what O'Malley is. I think he's on the verge of getting there. I think Pereira is close to being there, but Pereira is more a fight fans fighter than O'Malley, even though O'Malley is a great fighter. And the reason I say that is, Pereira's English is still not there, right? And I think to get to that next level and to win the American market over, you got to be out there where the public knows who you are and you can talk and have a conversation with fans. He doesn't have that yet, and it took Anderson Silva a while because of that, right? And I think Anderson got bigger toward the end of his run when he learned English and he didn't need Ed Soares talking for him all the time, and Anderson could express himself on his own. And I think that's where Alex is right now. Alex is certainly, as far as stars within the sport, he's at the top. But I think in terms of, reaching out to the, the common man and the man on the street, I think, O'Malley is the guy.
Kevin, sorry, John, I was going to ask, so do you kind of see this as a sort of investment into the potential stardom of O'Malley here with this Sphere show? Is that kind of what you're saying?
I think that they're giving him every opportunity to become the next star, right? It reminds me of the Jose Aldo Conor McGregor fight, right? They did the world tour for that fight. And when did McGregor really get big? Well, it was at that press conference in Dublin when he stole the belt and Aldo freaked out. And I think that, everybody saw the video of that fight or that press conference. And I think that's where people said, oh my God, this guy, I love him. He had been scoring all these knockouts and everything. But that moment, it was like, you had the fighting ability and you had the personality all in one, and people loved him and they wanted to see it. And I think they're setting O'Malley up. That's why they, you referenced O'Malley on UFC 299, which, that those cards that they had in a row, 298, 299, 300 were just spectacular cards. So O'Malley was on one of those. And I think they're setting him up and they're giving him the stage. Now, if Merab wins the fight, right, I think Merab has a chance to become a good star. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be the transcendent star that outside, even though Merab has a fantastic personality and his work on social media is incredible, the gut issue notwithstanding, but I think, O'Malley just has that factor where if he comes out and he does to Merab what he did to Cheeto and what he did to Eddie Wineland and so many other people, I think O'Malley is really going to be right there and be the next big star.
Have you stepped foot inside Sphere?
I am going today in about 3 hours over to UFC. Dana has a Sphere replica built. And so I'm doing a walkthrough of the Sphere replica in at the UFC office today.
Dang.
So I will have a story on that coming up.
All right, couple more minutes here with Kevin Iole, and I do have some rapid fire questions on the way out. But in terms of strong leans or otherwise, Sean O'Malley as an underdog has some people raising eyebrows. Do you have any strong conviction on that fight?
I like O'Malley. I've already came out and said I like O'Malley in the fight, and I will write a betting column next week picking O'Malley.
Okay. All right. So I didn't prepare you for this, so maybe you have 30 seconds on it, maybe you don't. But I have been asked by a company, and I'm doing this video later this week, to come up with the 3 biggest sports moments in Las Vegas history. And I'm not sure there's a better resource I could have to ask than you. So certainly I feel like maybe the Vegas Golden Knights have to factor in there somewhere, but perhaps not given the rich history of combat sports. For me, it feels like I need a Manny Pacquiao slot somewhere. But De La Hoya Mayweather was probably the biggest sporting event I ever covered. So when you think about Las Vegas, and I know I'm leaving out events that are bigger probably in your mind, where do I even begin? And can I call you later this week to discuss?
You can. So I would say, number one to me, no question about it, Tyson Holyfield, right? The biggest fight, just spectacular in all ways, the bite fight. And that was going into the fight, I would have said that, John, not just because of the bite and the infamous and everything that surrounded it. But, then I would say the Golden Knights winning the Stanley Cup and UNLV winning the national championship in basketball. Those would be the 3. I mean, you can't underestimate in 1990 how big Jerry Tarkanian's UNLV Rebels were to this town, right?
Yeah.
And because there was no UFC at that time, there was no Golden Knights at that time. There were no Raiders. There was no A's coming, right? It was UNLV Rebels, and that was it. And then winning. So to me, those were the 3 moments.
Sounds like UFC 100 and 300 are not even top 10.
No, I would say UFC 300, especially to me, John, was going to be one that I was saying it would be like and that number 3, fighting for number 3, top 5, fighting for number 3. UFC 100, I think maybe not, because the UFC itself wasn't as big then as it was at UFC 300. But I think both of those fight cards, and we remember, Dana White said he was going to, if it didn't do $1 million, he was going to base jump off Mandalay Bay after UFC 100.
Right. Thankfully, it did. Anything for De La Hoya Mayweather in that top 10 or no?
I certainly think that has to be in there. That was a huge fight that was there, and Mayweather Pacquiao would have to be in. And one other one that I think you have to put in there because of the moment, and you'll remember this: Matt Hughes and Frank Trigg, right? That was such a huge fight, and I don't know that until maybe when Manny Pacquiao made his walkout against Floyd Mayweather that I heard a louder crowd at the MGM Grand than when Matt Hughes slammed Frank Trigg, right? When he carries him across the ring and he slams him, that place erupted. And to me, a lot of people will point to Shamrock and Tito Ortiz as the moment that the MMA arrived as a mainstream sport in Las Vegas. I think it was Trigg and Hughes and that moment, because people were so into that fight. Boom! That place, the roof almost blew off.
Dude, I'm going to tell the client to just give you my fee and book you, and you can tell them the greatest moments in Las Vegas sports history. All right, a few rapid fire questions with the great Kevin Iole on the way out. Baseball regular season is winding down. Your Pittsburgh Pirates are in last place. Who wins the World Series?
You know what? I think it's going to be a tough one here, but I'm going to go ahead and say the Dodgers. I wonder about the pitching, but the Dodgers just keep finding ways to win.
Over under 1.5 more pro MMA fights for Francis Ngannou.
Under.
Wow.
I love it. And then best non-combat sports event in that you have either attended as a fan or covered as a journalist. Non-combat sports, though.
You know what? Because it was recent, but it was so much fun. Game 5 of the Stanley Cup in 2023. I was there for when the Golden Knights hoisted the chalice, and oh my God, I was at the Super Bowl when the Steelers won in Pasadena, Super Bowl 14. But that was something else, and there was we got there at 3. What time was it? The game was 5, so we got there at 2:30 in the afternoon on game day. Toshiba Plaza was filled 2.5 hours before game time with people chanting "Go Knights, go!" and people were just walking up to each other and hugging because there was a sense of inevitability that they were going to win the cup that night. And then I think the final was 9-2. And you see, I got the cup up on the shelf behind me there.
Yeah, I saw that.
No, I mean, the relationship that team has with that city and longtime hockey fans like yourself is unbelievable. So is KevinIole.com. You can check out all this man's content there. On X, it's at Kevin I. And on Instagram, at Kevin Iole, IOLE. My man, appreciate the time, the insight. In journalism school, they tell you about lapdog journalists and attack dog journalists. And, you're never afraid to ask the good questions. So power to you. Keep doing you. And I'll see you out there in Vegas in about 10 days, my man.
See you soon. Be well, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, man.
Kevin Iole with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast.
He was on fire today, huh?
Right?
No doubt about it. So you heard us talk about the World Series there, but NFL Week 1 is here. Ladies and gentlemen, and a new season means new ways to get in on the action. The DraftKings Sportsbook, unofficial sports betting partner of the NFL. Ready to place your first bet? Well, try betting on something simple, like picking a player to score a touchdown. A lot of people expecting big things from the rookie Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. They're 4.5-point favorites right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Keenan Allen, plus 180 to score an anytime touchdown in his Bears debut. If that is of interest, and if you are ready to do a touchdown celebration of your own, score big right now at DraftKings Sportsbook, the best place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code AFPOD. That's code AFPOD for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium on us. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/FTBall. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at NFL.com/terms. All right, so very excited to let you know at this time on the way out. That's brutal, huh?
Well done, though. Well done.
No fast forward button. So we are happy to let you know Anik Squared dies on the vine, but it's been rebranded. Anik versus Anik. Our NFL podcast begins week 2. More details to come on that. And then just one final MMA note on the way out. We will be back later this week, of course, with a full preview of Gilbert Burns and Sean Brady, Brian Petrie on deck. But Kenny, as somebody who fought for the lightweight championship 3 times, I just wanted to present to you this quote from Dan Hooker on the way out, if I could. Now, I know you fought in a different era. The circumstances were different, but this is a quote from Dan Hooker to ESPN Australia. Last time that he fought against a highly ranked contender, it was Michael Chandler making his UFC debut. And Dan suggested that was too big a risk. And he said he kind of learned from that first rodeo to just kind of not do anything dumb this time around. The last time I was number 5, I agreed to fight Michael Chandler. I gave him a shot. It was his first fight in the UFC. I flew to Abu Dhabi, to the other side of the world with absolutely no coaches, and went and fought him with a guy I've been training with for 6 months in my corner. It was not the smartest of decisions. So I guess this time around, I'm just not going to do anything dumb or sell my title shot again. I appreciate my team and my coaches a lot more than I did before. And gosh, if this isn't a case of a tale of 2 careers, Kenny, with Dan Hooker, right? Yeah. I mean, he made the UFC debut in Auckland in 2014 and had that crazy year fighting Felder and Poirier back-to-back. And a lot of people wondered if he could ever get back to a top level. And sort of we increasingly come to find out that at that point in time, he wasn't all in all the right ways. So I'm very intrigued to see what Hooker can do. And he's obviously taking control of his career now when it comes to contention in a way that he obviously was not doing before.
100%. And I think it's really smart. And I think we have to be so conscious as professional athletes of the thing that makes us who we are. In Dan Hooker's case, that is toughness, right? And courage. And that very thing can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And because he's tough and because he's courageous, he's like, yes, bring it on. I will fight whoever, whenever. Let's go. And that kind of came back to bite him in that fight against Chandler. And now he's learned from that, and he's being a little bit smarter about it, which I think is great. And I think he should reserve that courage and that toughness for when he's in the cage. And I hope he gets it one day.
But Jay, Dan Hooker fought Islam Makhachev. I don't know if he had a full training camp. That rematch figures to be a tough matchup for him, but you can already hear Dan Hooker trying to maybe take control of his career a little bit, asking for a fight with Arman Tsarukyan, who presumably is going to fight for the title, instead of maybe Charles Oliveira. And who knows? I mean, it could be Hooker and Oliveira for a BMF belt. There's a lot of things in front of Dan Hooker, Jay, that weren't there before the Mateusz Gamrot win. So,
well, when he talks about selling his title shot. I mean, and the opportunity for him, talking about the danger with Gamrot, not sort of even in the fight, not even just the lead up to the fight, but even in the fight, sort of protecting himself. I can't get enough of it, John. And you were calling him your favorite fighter weeks before that last fight. But, when you talk about guys sort of in that position and sort of controlling their own destiny, and there's certain fighters where you may turn down an opportunity with the promotion, and you might be concerned about when your next opportunity will come and a delay there. But even, and I hate, I know you think I always talk about Belal, but even with Belal, it's like, are you going to fight in October for a bag, or are you going to fight when you're ready to defend your belt?
Right. No, and we inject George St. Pierre's name into this conversation a lot. And whether it was strategically coming out of retirement to fight Michael Bisping, or making sure that he fought on the right calendar. I mean, certainly there was a time in George St. Pierre's career when he lost to Matt Serra that he was ripping off heads to get back to that fight, and he was one of the most active guys on the roster. But, there are strategic things involved with these careers, and I guess it's just a long-winded way of saying I'm happy that Dan Hooker is in this position, because sometimes he hasn't always made the career best decision when it comes to fighting for belts. And now it stands to reason, he's got a new 5-fight contract that he just broke in memorably, that he's going to make a lot of money in this stage of his UFC career. All right. Thank you to our guests today. UFC welterweight champion Belal Muhammad, Ray Longo, Kevin Iole, Jason Anik. Thanks for stepping up. Our producer is Cody Merrow. JohnAnik.com for all your merchandise needs. 15% off all of our Anik and Florian podcast designs, and one more sleep designs as well with promo code NOCHE. Also, KennyFlorian.com is live. It is in charge. I was on that website last night, and we'll be back later in the week. We will preview UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Brady, Apex this weekend, Sphere next weekend. It's all systems go for the worldwide leader in combat sports after the bye week. And we'll be back later this week. Thanks to everybody for indulging us live. And we will talk to you in about 48 hours. For Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. Jay, thanks for stepping up. Until Wednesday or Thursday, yo later.
Hey, Atlas! From about tonight!